We are anchored at Hammock Bay near Camp Lejeune, which is a Marine Corps base known for their jets that take off vertically. And although I don't know that we'll be seeing any vertical jets take off today, we are basically just waiting out the weather. It's a really rainy day. So today we are going to make the most of this rainy day, and we are going to give you our lessons learned on 1 month of the Great Loop. We're going to tell you what we've learned so far on this journey and what we're looking forward to. So we would like to reflect on our first month on America's Great Loop. To give you a little bit more backstory, we bought the boat Pivot on January 8th, 2021. And so we are relatively new boaters, and we left our
extremely new boaters.
Yeah, that's a total understatement. And so we have been full-time cruising since March 31st. When we left our home base marina in a small town on the St. Johns River. So that kind of catches you up to speed with our newness to boating, life on the water, and the Great Loop.
And if you haven't been following, we just passed in North Carolina. So we've been to the we were at the most northern part of Florida, all of Georgia, all of South Carolina, and now we're just getting into North Carolina on the Great Loop.
Yeah. We wanted to make this video to reflect on our first month on the Great Loop and to kind of go over what are some of our favorite moments so far, what have been some challenging or hard moments, and what are the lessons learned.
I think it's really beneficial to reflect as you're going on the different stages, because somebody who's done the Great Loop 50 times is going to have totally different thoughts than somebody who's done the Great Loop one time or has done it for a month like us. So hopefully you find something interesting from our commentary. If it's at least what not to do, then that's great.
Or also, if you're not a boater and you're interested in jumping into boating, I don't know that I can't say from this point that I would recommend jumping into the Great Loop, but I think maybe we can inspire you to start your own boating journey too, because that's definitely what we've been doing.
Kicking things off, what have you enjoyed about the Great Loop so far?
My favorite moment on the Great Loop was our anchorage near St. Catherine's Island in Georgia. And I made dinner for us, and we ate dinner on the fly bridge upstairs, and there were dolphins just everywhere. And we had an absolutely stellar sunset. The water was super calm, so we got a great night's sleep, and it was just perfect. It was awesome. It was really, really beautiful.
We met a couple, Bruce and Linda, who had a converted sailboat where they completely removed the mast, and they were doing the Great Loop. Mm-hmm. And it was just, amazing chatting with them. We met a person literally, 2 nights ago, Floyd, who had a book and had a crazy history of owning 12 or so different boats and a bunch of different businesses in Kentucky. And it was just fun talking and getting to know him, along with Gwen and Andy, who you guys have seen much of. It's just been really fun getting to meet people again, and especially post-COVID, or during COVID, that's something that doesn't really happen that much anymore.
To add on to Elliot's comment about the people on the loop, I think it's just in the boating community, it has really surprised me how kind people are when it comes to helping out other boaters, and that has been such a sigh of relief for me as a new boater and as someone who is learning. Just like we met Captain, his name is Conrad, who helped us catch our lines in Savannah, and then we also met another Captain, Fletcher, who helped us catch our lines in Charleston. And also, like Elliot mentioned, Floyd helped us maneuver our boat off the docks in Carolina beach. And so it has just been absolutely incredible to see and like appreciate all of this just kindness from people who don't have to do anything, but who will come out of their boats just to catch a line for you. And it is so incredibly nice.
Yeah. Now, what would you say are some of the things that you haven't enjoyed from the Great Loop? Either from our own incompetence or just boating in general, or, you know, something you didn't like.
Yeah, user error.
Not my user error.
Our user error. Both of our user error.
All you hear?
It's tough. I would say it's tough because I have kind of like two things. One is our dinghy, because our dinghy motor is so unreliable. It makes taking out Ollie a huge hassle, and Elliot has to like configure, or like Elliot has to jerry rig all of these different pieces together to turn it on or to turn it off. And then the string to pull the engine to start is incredibly difficult for me anyway. And yeah, so that's been a total pain. And then number two, dragging anchor is so scary, because depending upon where we are, whether we're dragging anchor into shore or we're dragging anchor near other boats, it is just so frightening. And it's happened to us a few times, but both of my answers of the things that I have not enjoyed, we are in the process of taking care of them. So,
and we have evolved our anchoring game.
Yes,
I would say
we've learned.
So like originally we have a windlass, so we just, you know, press release on the windlass and called it a day. You know, well, we did our scope calculation, and we typically are pretty safe on our calculation, but we would just call it a day. And then we said, okay, we're gonna try to set it. And then we met other people, other nice boaters, who kind of gave us other wisdom, other pieces of wisdom about how to set our anchor, and we did that. And we did that here in soft mud, and we've been pretty good throughout the gust today. So we're getting better, but we do have a long-term fix coming for that one. As far as for me, the one thing that is really frustrating about living on a boat, Great Loop is actually makes this less bad in general, but it's just how hard it is to get things. Of course, also Fred and the dinghy motor is just not fun, especially because I think part of the Great Loop is stopping and seeing these cool places that we wouldn't otherwise go to. And most of the time, because of our budget and, you know, our lifestyle, we do those anchoring. And so without our dinghy motor, our dinghy, which is our car, it makes it harder. So yeah, those are definitely two things that I want to improve on in the future. Yeah. So the first one, obviously we can't change the situation that we're on a boat, but we can plan better, schedule things to be delivered in different places, and yeah.
Yeah. I think too, like our dinghy motor, we don't have like paddle boards or kayaks like we've seen a lot of other boaters use and have on their boats, and so it would be nice to have that, but our budget doesn't really allow that for right now. And so therefore our like backup solution to like being able to go and explore some of these more like coastal areas where the land meets the rivers or the waterways, we would be able to do that on a dinghy. But as of right now, our dinghy is so unreliable that we just don't feel comfortable doing that. We're hopeful that very soon that problem will be resolved.
Now that we've talked about some awesome things and some crappy things, what are just some things that we've learned doing the Great Loop?
Oh, we've learned a ton. We've gained so much experience. I mean, we went from literally nothing. Elliot could count on his hands how many times he's been on a boat, on one hand, how many times he's been on a boat. And I've been on a boat a few times, know how to do a few things, but nothing compared to what I know now. So after 1 month on the Great Loop and owning the boat for, I don't know, 4 months, 5 months, what are some of the things that you've learned?
I've definitely learned about the weather.
So, oh my gosh, yeah.
I had the philosophy back when we were living on land and had normal jobs, and even when we were traveling the world, the weather was weather. It's gonna be what it's gonna be, and I wasn't gonna really have that affect my decisions, because some days it's sunny, some days it's not. You know, bring a raincoat or don't bring a raincoat, it doesn't matter. But unfortunately, the life on the water is ruled by the weather. So you want to know tides, like, well, I guess tides isn't weather, but we need to know, is there a storm coming in, or is there, you know, a bad patch, a bad week of weather, because that really affects our boat. You know, we have, whenever we're trying to dock or trying to anchor, we have to always think about what are all the forces affecting the boat. And, you know, we have current, we have winds, and we have the tides, which affects the current. And so all those things come together and you have a force. And depending on where you anchor, you can either be rolling all night, you can be concerned about your anchor dragging, you can be concerned about coming into a dock and how are you going to get off the dock. And so basically our schedule revolves around the weather. And as you know, the weather is not always known more than a day in advance. So that means schedules change, that means plans change. And so I definitely learned the importance of planning and also the importance of having to be on your toes. So
yeah, and today is the perfect example for that, because we knew that there was going to be a not so great cruising day, and so we have stayed inside all day today and have just been waiting out the weather. That's not something that we would have typically done when we were living on land. We probably would have just altered our day accordingly. So it is a whole different mindset with the weather. I think for me, another thing that we've learned is docking. We had this absolutely gnarly experience, in my opinion, and it was just not fun. And during our maiden voyage down the St. Johns River, and it really like made me scared of future docking experiences. And so after that, we went out and we practiced at public docks near our marina, and that helped a little bit. And each docking since, we've learned a bit more. So we've learned to go incredibly slow, to know where the rudder and where the wheel is at, to have fenders ready, to have the lines ready. For us, a benefit is putting the stern line on first, which we learned the hard way. But yeah, we've learned tips and tricks that have helped us with docking. And although I still get a lot of anxiety when docking, it's not nearly as bad as what it started out as. So we've learned a ton about docking.
One of the other things that we've learned is just how important water management is and power management. We have a pretty beefy solar array and like 2 huge lithium batteries in here, but still it's not quite enough for us. So we are very conscientious about what's plugged in, what's using the power, and trying to use the most power when we have excess power available. That means when we're hooked up to a dock, or that means when we're running the engine because we have alternator charging or something like that.
Yeah. And that also revolves around the weather too, because the weather affects our solar panels. So on a day like today, when we're sitting in the boat working on our laptops all day, we also have to keep that in mind as something we would have never thought of before, as like a work day on a rainy day inside using up more power, but it's not being regenerated. So just kind of circle of all things are connected. I think another thing that we've also learned is navigation. We've learned what apps are used by a lot of boaters. We've learned about different resources like Bob 423's guide for the intra-coastal. And we've also learned about apps that track our course of travel and when to use each one. So we've just learned so much, and we're still learning more and more about these features in the apps, but they've just been a tremendous resource for us as we've traveled.
We've gotten used to having to use multiple sources of information. So for example, we use Aqua Maps for looking at more of the depth around the channel. We use Navionics for our traditional navigation routing, and we use Garmin as well for that, and then also for our depth. And then we also make sure to use our eyes, because that, you know, you're the only person that's there in real time and you can see the channel markers. So Sometimes we've been just cruising off into the marshland if we were in Garmin, but we were in the channel.
True story. The last thing that we've learned is just how Pivot performs. We understand her a lot better, how she reacts to waves and swell, how to best maneuver the boat whenever trying to cross different wakes from different boaters, or also just like the anchor and just how other factors affect her. So it's been really, really a great learning experience to get a better understanding and like to get a better understanding of our boat.
With that is our experience in our first 30 days of the Great Loop. If you've been following along, you know exactly how it's been because we've been filming pretty much daily vlogs, and we're going to continue doing that for the whole Great Loop. So you're going to see exactly what the Great Loop is, and we'd love to share any more information. So if any of you all want to know anything more about this, just let us know. Leave us a comment below and we'll be happy to respond.
Or if there's any specific topics for videos that you would like for us to cover, please let us know so that way we have future rainy day videos to make for you. But as for now, if you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. Give it a comment in the description below with the things that I mentioned. And if you're so inclined, we would love for you to hit that red subscribe button and subscribe to our channel as we cruise around America's Great Loop.
We will see you tomorrow when we probably head up to Beaufort, North Carolina. But we haven't planned tomorrow, so planning
tonight's agenda.
Tonight. But yeah, we're looking forward to exploring a new city.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching.
Thanks. Cheers. Want some peanut butter?
Bump it. Bump it. High five. Yeah. Bump it. Kisses.
Oh!
You kissed me so hard I hit my head. Okay.